So, beautiful day. We're in Brachas Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. Sorry, what am I talking about? We're on Brachas Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. 4 lines from the top. Good morning. So, says the gemorah. There are 2 dots. Reb Eliezer Omer Baida, right? Reb Eliezer says, good morning. Reb Eliezer says, we say Havdalah in Chayin and Adas, in the 4th bracha. Says the gemorah, Reb Zera have a rachiv chamer. Reb Zera was riding his donkey, as you do. Avakashakiv azel. He was going, shakiv azel, maybe it means he was learning. Some say it means he was learning Torah, he was going, that's how they used to travel. So, Reb Chaim Barav in Basrei, Reb Chaim was going behind him. So Omalei, he said to him, I'm sure for certain that you heard in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, halacha Reb Eliezer b'yom tov shechal yis achar Shabbos. If Yom Tov is the day after Shabbos, in other words, it's Shabbos, and then Yom Tov is on Sunday, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, whatever it is. So there is no Atachainen. You don't say Atachainen. There's no weekday tefillah because it's Yom Tov. So when do you say Havdalah? So I'm sure you heard. He said, I'm sure you heard of the name of Rabbi Yechanan. The halacha is like Reb Eliezer. Beyond the Shechal Shabbos. So if you remember, Reb Eliezer said, three opinions in the Mishnah. Reb Eliezer said, you do Havdalah in Haidah after Maidim sometime. I don't know when. You do Havdalah after Maidim. Rabbi Kiva said, you had a bracha. The other sheet was an Atachainen, the 4th bracha. So when there is no Atachainen, when it's not a weekday tefillah, when you don't say Atachainen das, so then on Yom Tov, what you do? You say that in Haidah, like Reb Eliezer. All right, that's what he says to him. Amalei, he said back to him, Ein halacha. In, he said to him, sorry, in. Yeah, you're right. Halacha, when he said the halacha is like Reb Eliezer, mechal de pligi. The fact he said the halacha, the paskin, the hammer comes down on the side of Reb Eliezer, mechal de pligi. That implies that there's someone that's arguing Reb Eliezer in this case, in this scenario. And who argues in Reb Eliezer? The Gemara is asking, mechal de pligi. Who argues? Where do you see that there's a machlekes? The Gemara says, what do you feel like pligi? People don't argue in Reb Eliezer. For pligi Rabbanan. Rabbanan argue in Reb Eliezer. In our Mishnah, Rabbanan say that you say it in, what did Rabbanan say? Rabbanan Shita is Chayin and Das. So so of course they argue in Reb Eliezer. Why would you think no one's arguing Reb Eliezer? The Gemara says, I would assume the Plig Rabbanan b'Shai Meis Hashana. When you say Atachayin and Das, that's when Rabbanan argue. When you say it then. But if you don't say it then, Rabbanan will agree to Reb Eliezer maybe. So let's read it aside. The plig Rabbanan b'shai meis hashana b'yom teshchal yisach Shabbos. If Sunday is Chag, is festival time, mi pligi, does Rabbanan argue? There is no Atachayin, so you can't say then. So Rabbanan don't argue in that case. The Gemara asks another question. What do you mean? Pligi Reb Akiva? You said who argues on Reb Eliezer? Reb Akiva. Reb Akiva says add the 4th bracha. That was Reb Akiva's opinion. You add another bracha. So the Gemara answers, Atu kol hashana kol miyavdin Reb Akiva. I don't understand. The whole year we do like Reb Akiva. We don't do like Reb Akiva. We don't add another bracha. So why should we add another bracha on Yom Tov? Now it's Yom Tov, we're going to add another bracha like him? So the Gemara answers, kol hashana kula my time. So the Gemara explains, kol hashana kula my time Reb Akiva. Why do we not do like Reb Akiva and add another bracha? The Tam Nisrei Tikkun. Because the Anshe Knesset G'dayla said we should say 18 brachas in Shemona Esra. Tishrei Loisikin, they weren't misakin another bracha, so you can't add another bracha. Hachanami on Shabbos, Sheiv Tikkun, Tam Loisikin. They were misakin on Shabbos to say 7 brachas. They were not misakin to say 10 brachas, 8 brachas. So for the same reason you don't add a bracha in the week, you don't add a bracha on Yom Tov. That's why we don't pass like Rabbi Kiva. That's why you pass like Reb Eliezer on Motzei Yom Tov, and we should say Atachainen in Haidah. Amalei lav halacha itma. Amalei lav halacha itma ela matin itma. He said to him, it doesn't say the halacha is like Rebbe Eliezer. What he really said was matin. Matin means like you lean. We lean into Rebbe Eliezer psak. We'll see in Rashi what exactly the distinction is. Itma ela matin itma. The itma Rabbi Yitzchak Rav Rimi Amma Mishum Rabbeinu halacha v'amila matin. Really, it means matin. You lean. We're neiter towards Rebbe Eliezer's opinion. Rabbi Yochanan moedim. Rabbi Yochanan says we're moida. Rabbi Chaim nirin. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan says everyone agrees to Rebbe Eliezer, and Rabbi Chaim says nirin. It appears like Rebbe Eliezer, not that we paskin like Rebbe Eliezer. So let's see what's the difference between these four ways: halacha, matin, nirin. Take a look in Rashi. So Rashi says halacha. It's about 5 lines higher in Rashi. Rashi says, mandam halacha, if it's a halacha, this is how we paskin. You say atachayin in moedim, mandam halacha dashin la b'pirka. So you get up in shul, and you make a drush about it. Tell the world, spread the good word, print it in the article, sidurim. You say atachayin in moedim. Mandam matin, you don't tell everyone. What does it mean? Midrash like dashin barabin. You don't publicize it. Don't print it in the sidurim. Don't speak about it. If someone asks you what should you do, you tell him, do this, but you don't go ahead and publicize it, right? It's interesting, like what? So people shouldn't know what you do. I don't really understand what the. Okay. Mandam and nirin, and if you said nirin, uri namile marinin. Nirin means it appears that he's right, but we don't even tell someone. If someone asks you what you do, you shouldn't even say that. It appears that that's halacha, but don't tell the guy even. V'i avid loy madrinan. Sorry, nirin loy marinan. V'i avid madrinan loy madrinan. But if nirin means if a guy did it, if you said it in the wrong time, if you said it in maidim. This nirin means you don't have to daven again. We don't make you daven again because it looks like you're okay. You look good. You look okay. So says the gemorah. Back to the gemorah. Rav Zera nekait the Rebbe Chia barava. We'll take in the words of Chia b'yada b'yadach. We'll use his shita. What was his shita? Reb Chia barava said matin, right? Reb Chia barava said matin. So why should we hold like Reb Chia barava? The diag v'goma shmaite mepuma demora shapir. He was very accurate with exactly the words that came out of his teacher's mouth. He didn't fill in any blanks. Rashi says he wrote everything down. He had simonim. Well, they didn't write down Torah Sheba'al Peh in those days. The Torah was given in a way you weren't allowed to write it down. But he made simonim. Simonim means he made signs, exactly, code words to remember exactly what they said and how they said it. So everything was in his head. Clear. So, I might as well throw it in now because I'm never going to say it anywhere else. Beautiful pshat. You're supposed to write down. If you look in ancient biblical texts, you find exactly from 2,600 years ago now. There's not one word taken out. And it's very strange because even much more recent texts, they say, oh, this was added later, and this was added later, and it was added later. Because what would happen is someone would have the original text, then you write down on the side his footnotes. Right, or his pshat, and that will end up 300 years later getting mixed into the original text. But since you were never allowed to write down your own pshat in Torah, it was also to write any Torah. The people of the book, it was forbidden to write. So therefore the text never got confused.
That was the reason?
According to Rav Miller, that's the reason why. That's one of the reasons we're going to see if we're Dorish time with the Quran or not. That's going to be later on in the Gemara today. But he says that's one of the things that came out of that is that you never have a chumash written 2,000 years ago there's not one letter different. It's all exactly the same as 2,000 years ago, or more 3,000 years ago. But we have texts from Dead Sea Scrolls from way back, from 3,000 years ago. It's exactly the same text, word for word, and that's why also you weren't allowed to write something Torah Sheba'al Peh. You're not allowed to say Ba'al Peh. Torah Sheba'al Peh, you can't say Ba'al Peh. You're not allowed to say Psukim, Ba'al Peh. You have to read it inside. Why? Because we were worried that a guy would learn it verbatim, and then he's going to write it down, make a mistake, writing it down, and 2,000 years later we're going to find that some guy wrote, look, it's written differently. Now, if it was written, you weren't allowed to. If you wanted to copy the text, you had to do one word, copy one word, read it inside maybe two words. I can't remember how much you're allowed. You have to copy the Chumash one word at a time to protect the source. Amazing chat, no? I never heard it before. So says the gemorah. So he was very medayik. Kerchava de Pumbedisa. He was medayik as much as Rechava de Pumbedisa. There was a Meir called Rechava who lived in Pumbedisa. Why? The Amar Rechava said, Amar of Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda says, Har Bayis Stav Kofel Haya, Vaystav Lifnim is Stav. Stiv, I don't know how you say this. I'm not sure what the Gemara is trying to understand from here, but he brought down those machlekes. He said, he brought down the exact lashon of Rebbe Yehuda. It's machlekes was Rav Yehuda or Rebbe Yehuda, different size. But in a Har Bayis they had a circular bench that the Kohanim could sit down on, and it says was stav b'teich stav. Those two rows of circular benches, some type of raised floor that they were able to sit down on. So he said exactly stav kofel haya stav liftim stav. He got the lashon perfect. I'm not sure what the Gemara understands from him. It was a machlekes, obviously. Amar Rav Yosef. So it says Rav Yosef haloi hayadana v'loi hayadana ela midrav Shmuel yadana. I don't know that they're not from this and not from that. I know it from Rav Shmuel. The Tkinele Maganisa b'Bavel. Rav Shmuel, they were masakin a new nusach in Bavel. What's the nusach that they were masakin? And this might sound familiar, since we don't do Havdalah in Haidah. We say this. You said, teach us Hashem your righteous ways. Teach us to do your will. And let us inherit times of joy, Chagin Edova, and festivals, graceful festivals, V'tosheni Kedushas Shabbos, and we should inherit the holiness, the sanctity of Shabbos, the covered mayed and respect for the Chag, the Chagigas Aregel, and festivals. Benkedush Shabbos, Kedush Yontif V'dalta. You distinguish Hashem between Shabbos and Yontif, and you distinguish between Shabbos and the other 6 days of the week. You've sanctified Israel with your holiness. Then you carry on the tefillah of Yontif v'titein lanu. So that's the tefillah we say in Motzei Shabbos that falls out on a Yontif. Now you know it's a takana of Rav Shmuel, and we don't do like Rabbi Lezer, we do like this Rav Shmuel. Says the Mishnah. This is a famous Mishnah. Someone that says, Rashi says we're talking about someone that says in prayer. It's not muchach in the lashon of the Mishnah, but that's how that's how we understand it. Rashi says, last wide line in Rashi, we're talking about someone that's praying here. Someone that prays and says, meaning your compassion is even on the birds. What are we talking about here? There's a mitzvah shiloach haken. If you want to take a bird, if you want to take the eggs, there's a mother bird sitting on the eggs. So it's a mitzvah to shoo away the mother bird and take the eggs. And the Gemara even goes to so far. The pasuk says, "Leman yurichi lemecha." If you do that, you'll have lengthy days. You have a long life. If you shoo away the mother bird, right? So the Gemara says somewhere else, it's such an easy mitzvah, and the Gemara, and Torah promises you a long life. All the more so if you do other mitzvahs which are hard. And the more famous story, the guy walks up the ladder, he's doing kibbutz avei, and shiloach hakan, he falls and he dies. Okay, so the Gemara. So we're talking about here in tefillah, meaning what? He says, Hashem, your compassion is even on the bird. You don't want the mother bird to suffer. You made us shoo away the mother bird that it shouldn't suffer. So just like that, this is how the Rishonim understand. Al you have compassion on the bird, have compassion on me, on us, on all your other creatures. So what sounds like a beautiful tefillah. If someone says, we remember you, Hashem, for all your good. Or if a person says, meidim, the person says, thank you, Hashem, Meshaskin, I say, we shut him up. We stop him right there, we shut him up. We don't let him talk. Why? So we're going to see. Why are these things bad? So what's wrong with the Al Tov Yizach Shmecha? It's budget. You're saying, we thank you Hashem for the good, but we don't thank you Hashem for the bad, right? But we're going to see what's the whole story with the Shaloch HaKen. What's the problem with saying, Al Kantsipa Yagir Rachamecha? Says the gemorah, if a person says, thank you, it looks like you're saying thank you left, thank you right, thank you here, thank you there. It looks like you believe in two powers. And unfortunately, even today, many of the world think there's two powers. It's unbelievable. If someone says, we thank you for the good, we thank you for the good. We don't thank you for the bad. Meaning, there's a different power that's doing the bad. There's bad in the world. It's not coming from God. It's not, we believe it's all good. Everything's from Hashem, everything's from God, it's all good. But if you say thank you for the good, what you're implying is that the bad is not from you. It's from some Satan, or I don't know what these people believe. Some crazy stuff. We believe it's all from Hashem. Everything that happens is all for the good. A person is obligated to thank Hashem for the bad, just like he thanks Hashem for the good. Why? Why do you have to thank Hashem for the bad? Because it's all from Hashem, it's all good. Whatever Hashem does is command of Rahman of it. It's all good. Ella, so that's no problem. Ella, what's going on here? Your compassion gives even to a bird, to the bird that's sitting on its eggs. My timer. Why is this not a good idea to say? The Gemara says, "Pligi ba treya morai b'marava." There's the machlekes. Rabbi Yossi Baravin, Rabbi Yossi Bazvida. Two Rabbi Yossis, Baravin and Bazvida. Chad Amar, you know why you shouldn't say this? You're making the animals jealous. I guess they can hear our tefillahs for some reason, but you're making everyone else jealous. Hashem has compassion on the bird, but you don't see has such compassion on other animals. Midoisef here means the mitzvahs, Rashi says. You're making Hashem's mitzvahs, Hashem's commandments, you're saying that they're all about rachamim. It's all about compassion. Hashem's commandments, they're commandments. You do what you have to do. Rashi says we're his slaves, we're his servants. We don't do it because it's compassion on animals. We're not animal rights activists. We do all the mitzvahs because that's what Hashem wants us to do. The gzeirus. So the Gemara says, "Who the knock is coming to Rabbah?" There was a story of a guy went up to daven. He actually went down to pray. We said before that they used to pray further down. Makim Kosich Hashem. So Nochas means he went down to pray. So the guy who davened for the Kal used to always daven lower than everyone else. So he went down to daven. V'Omar, he said, "Ata chastal kan tzipor." You have compassion on the bird, the mother bird. Ata chus v'rachem aleinu. Have compassion on us. Rabba said, "Kama yada hay tzubah rabbanon l'tzuyim l'morei." Wow, this Baal Tefillah, what a great Baal Tefillah he is! What a beautiful Baal Tefillah he was. He knows how to praise Hashem. He knows how to get rachmanos from Hashem. Abaye said to him, "Why is he such a great Baal Tefillah?" The Mishnah says he shut him up. So of course Rabbi knew the Mishnah. Rabbi was just testing him. He was making sure if he knew the Mishnah. He was testing him. The Achronim asked what type of test it is. Like we know the Mishnah. Why did he not know the Mishnah? Of course he knew the Mishnah. So there's a couple of mahalachim. Either one mahalach is because the Mishnah doesn't say betfilah. The Mishnah just says stam. So maybe he had a different shot in the Mishnah. Or maybe the whole reason why I can't say it is because you're making the midas of Hashem into Rahmanas, and it's Gzeirus. That only applies to someone that's an Amaretz, a Bor, someone that doesn't know anything. He's going to think, oh, now the mitzvah is only Rahmanas, and if there's no Rahmanas, I shouldn't do it, let's say, right? But with Talmud Chachamim, you might think it's fine to do it. It's a good idea. The only problem is it's Gezeira that someone who doesn't know any Torah, he's going to be mistaken. So he's telling him that no, it's across the board, whether you know Torah, you don't know Torah, it's all what's it called. You're not allowed to say Al Kan Sibi Agirachamecha. So what is the reason why for Shaloch HaKen? So it's a machlokes. Are we allowed to say that the reason for Shaloch HaKen is Rachmanis? The Rishon seems to be saying you're not allowed to say it. Rashi says you're only allowed to say b'tefillah. But the implication is, according to Rashi, that you are allowed to say that the mitzvah of Shloch HaKen is because of Rachmanis. It's because we have compassion on the bird. Right? So why, if that's the reason, so why can't you say in Tefillah? Why can't you say in Tefillah? So, first of all, it's a brief akdama. Time of the mitzvahs. The mitzvahs have a reason. Do our commandments have a reason? So, there's a famous machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda says, we're not doyish time of the Torah. Reb Shimon says we're doyish time of the Torah. But that's not really the machlekes over here. Reb Shimon says doyish time of the Torah means that if you know the reason for a mitzvah, so l'kula, you could say, I'm not going to do it. If the Torah says do something, and we know, and Reb Shimon says we know the reason is for X, so if that doesn't apply in this case, so don't do it. That's Reb Shimon. Reb Yehuda says, even if the reason you think you know doesn't apply, you still got to do the mitzvah. So that's the machlekes. In Pashtus, we pass like Reb Yehuda, we're not doyish time of the Torah. We don't say only do the mitzvah if the reason applies, and don't do it if the reason doesn't apply. But l'chayra, everyone agrees that mitzvahs have a reason. And the Rambam says the reason for Shulach HaKen, and the Rambam says, is Rachmanis. And actually, the Medrash Tanchuma says mitzvah Shulach HaKen is Medrash Tanchuma says Meforish, it's because of Rachmanis on the bird. So what does it mean, Gzeiros? The Gemara says, it's not mitzvahs, it's Gzeiros. What does it mean, it's Gzeiros? So the Ramban explains that the Gzeira is, Hashem wants us to have compassion. The point of the mitzvah is that we should instill in ourselves compassion. That's what the Gzeira is. The Gzeira is that we should, or a different way of saying it is we shouldn't have achzoris, we shouldn't be mean to birds, we shouldn't be mean to animals. That's what the Torah is teaching us. We shouldn't be mean to animals. That's why we have to shecht an animal before we eat it. You find the most compassionate way to kill it. Shechita is the most compassionate way to kill it, or that's why you can't kill the Rishonim talk about a mother and a child at the same day. You can't kill the mother and child the same day because the mother, they say it's the same reason. The mother's going to see the baby being killed and it has compassion. The Rishonim say that they have the same compassion for their baby that we have. It doesn't come from seichel. Compassion on a baby doesn't come from seichel. So even animals have tremendous compassion. They have this love for their offspring. So you can't kill it the same day. So ask the Rambam. I just told you the reason why is because you have Rachmanis on the birds. But our gemorah says you're not allowed to say that. I say you're not allowed to say it's because of compassion. So what is it? Is it because of compassion or not? So the Rambam Meir says, you know what it is? I don't paskin like that opinion. I don't say it's because of compassion, because it's and it's only Xeris. There was another opinion here. The other opinion is because it's matal kinah b'maisa bereshis. Says Rambam, I pass like matal kinah b'maisa bereshis. The reason why you can't say ad kansa b'yaginu achamecha, Hashem has compassion on the birds. That's because, says the Rambam, malach al-maisa, it's going to make other animals jealous. Other creatures are going to be jealous. Not because his mitzvahs are Xeris. His mitzvahs aren't Xeris. His mitzvahs are Rachmanis, and we have to do because of Rachmanis. And that's the reason for the mitzvah. It's Rachmanis. So it's a machlekes amarayim. It could be that's the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Shimon. I don't know. I didn't say I'm saying this. Rabbi Yehuda says it's Xeris, and Rabbi Shimon says it's Rachmanis. And we know the reason. He says, no, we don't know the reason. It's just Xeris. I didn't say anyone saying that. There's another way to understand it over here. Some Rishonim say tefillah is different. When it comes to drush, to understand the reason for a mitzvah, you're supposed to understand, the Rambam says, you're supposed to understand the time of mitzvahs. You'll do the mitzvah more meaningfully if you understand why you're doing it. What's the purpose of it? You're supposed to understand the mitzvahs. You'll love the Torah, you'll love the mitzvahs more if it makes sense to you. So why couldn't you say in tefillah? Why can't I say, look, you have compassion on this bird? So when you're saying it, you're learning the sugya, you're trying to understand it, you're always saying it as it's possible. It's possible, this is the reason why Hashem did it. We're like ants, we can't understand Hashem. It's like an ant trying to understand why you're playing on your phone. And there's no idea why you're playing on your phone. We can't understand why, all the reasons that Hashem gave us every mitzvah. We're like ants. How can we possibly understand the reasons He gave? Right? Infinite intelligence. How can we understand it? But we're supposed to try and understand it. But if you're trying to understand it, that's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to try and understand the Torah. So we understand it. Medrash Tanchuma says it's because of Rachmanis. But when you pray, you say it's because of Rachmanis, you're paskening. That's the reason why, and that's the only reason why. And I'm certain, you can't be certain. You can't know why Hashem gave us the mitzvah Shulach HaKen. We can think, we can guess, we can try, we can use our brains with mitzvah to try and understand it. But when you pray and you say, you have compassion on the birds, have compassion on us, that's already, you think you know? You don't know anything about what Hashem wants, right? Okay. So it says a gemorah, And a side note about Shulach Ken, I don't know if I should say it now, but I'll do it very briefly. Shulach Ken, there's a big shaila if nowadays there's Shulach Ken. Are you supposed to send away the mother bird nowadays or not? Is there a mitzvah nowadays? I see some people look at me like, what? Yeah. So says the by the way, another opinion, I'll throw this in now once I'm mentioning this. Another opinion why you don't say Al-Kan Tibi Agir Chamecha is because there's also a little bit of achzarius. You're still taking away the eggs. It's a bit of achzarius. So you don't want Hashem to give us like Rachmanis and achzarius. You want just pure Rachmanis, right? So says the Chasam Sofer, not so well known Chasam Sofer, says the Chasam Sofer that nowadays no mitzvah shlach ken unless you want the eggs. If you need the eggs, take the eggs. You got to shoo away the mother bad. Don't make it suffer. If you don't want the eggs, don't make the mother bud suffer. It's only if you need the eggs. If you don't want the eggs, there's no mitzvah. Only if you need it, right? The Chavdas Yaya says that the mitzvah is even if you don't want the eggs. Chavdas Yaya says why? Because the Zaya says, what's the whole time of the mitzvah? I don't understand this at all. He says because when the bird flies away, the mother bird flies away, it cries for the baby, for the eggs, and if it's crying for the eggs, so Hashem's going to have Rachmanus and Klal Yisrael and bring the gula when you do it. So therefore, you should run around and try and find, what's it called? Go ahead, try and find birds. They should bring the gula. Be Mashiach. It's not like, oh, I don't need the eggs. What are you talking about? It's the greatest thing. You do Shalach HaKeren, and Hashem's going to have Rachmanus. So I don't understand because it sounds like it's more axorious to take the eggs in front of the mother bird. The bird will cry even more, right? So I don't really understand. That's one question. The Chasam Sofer has a better question in mind. He says the gemorah, the Mishnah says that Shluch HaKen is noig b'zman habayis and shalei b'zman habayis. You shoo away the mother bird when there's a base of Mikdash, when there's no base of Mikdash. And the gemorah says it didn't need to say that because it said something else. It says this also. But you don't need it. Of course it's not B'zman. Says the Chasam Sofer, according to the reason of the Zohar, of course you need it. For the Zman Beis HaMikdash. And the Zman Beis HaMikdash, why should you Shluch HaKen? The whole point is to beguile us, to bring us back to Beis HaMikdash. But if there's a Beis HaMikdash, we don't need that. So what do you need the whole mitzvah Shluch HaKen? The Gemara say, you need to tell me that. So Chasam Sofer says, he doesn't pass like the Zohar, he passes like the Rambam and the Ramban, that there is a reason is Rachmanis, and therefore it's achzorius. He says it's achzorius, take away the bags. If you don't want the eggs, it's mean. Why are you shooing away the bird? Take away the eggs. It's still achzorius. The whole point is to give you Rachmanis. Okay. I think we're going to have to end here. We're going over time. Are we up to 2 dots? Hold on. We'll just do one more line because it's part of the same thing. For Rabbi Nami, who the noch is coming to Reb Chanina? This guy went up to daven. Okay, no, it's a long piece. We'll push it off till tomorrow. Okay, we'll end over here. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. It's so exciting.